What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome in to episode number 293 of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked Outside the Box podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. It's KB, it's Deej coming at you. It's championship weekend in the PLL. As John Morant once said, it's a parade inside our city. Yeah. The PLL, the city of champions, they are here. And your boy might have gotten featured on the PLL Instagram. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the championship game. We'll give our final pick of the 2023 PLL season. Hashtag Sad Boy Hours. We'll get into the latest with the NLL. Apparently announcing some big announcement on Tuesday that we don't know what it is. We'll also talk about the Rush rebrand. We'll go through some of the games that have already been announced. Plus, we have a Squires Sixes because it is Philadelphia weekend in the PLL. So we gotta go full on Philly vibes. And okay, sorry. Just got a text.
I was like, did he just pause? His whole life just paused.
We'll get into all that. But before we get started, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at OTB LaxPod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/Underground Sports PHI, TikTok, Threads, all at OTB LaxPod. Follow Deej on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It goes a long way for helping the show continue to grow. Helps more people find the pod. Helps more people find Underground Sports Philadelphia. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. YouTube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of this show every single week. You get full video episodes of every show on our network. Clips, shorts, live streams, you name it. It's on our YouTube channel. And we need to get to 51 more subscribers before Sunday comes to a close. Deej, state your case. Plead with the people.
Bro, I already told you. I ain't got a case. I'm just man on the ground, boots on the ground, running around, almost forcing people to do it right there in my face. That's just the easier way to do it. Like, I'm personable. People like me. So I'm going to just be like, yo, what up? Ask them about the game. Ask them about their time there. You know, build a very small relationship and just be like, look, you can't always make it to games. I make it to a ton of them. Sometimes you need a little insight. I'm your guy. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button right here, Underground Sports Philadelphia. Or, you know, just go to youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. Boom. There it go. Right there for you. But hey, you know, I can't stress enough how important those subs are.
Yeah, so go subscribe so DJ doesn't get sent back to Alaska when he's got a big-time day on Monday at the day job. Also, go get your merch, phiapparel.co. You want to stand out in the crowd. You want to be the best dressed. It's your favorite NLL weekend, PLL weekend next season, or just lacrosse in general. Need a shooting shirt. Hoodie season's right around the corner. Look no further than our pals at PHI Apparel Company. They're the best in the game, and they are the exclusive merch partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Go to phiapparel.co, use code underground. You get 10% off any and all merch orders. It's the most effective and direct way to support everything we're doing. So go get your merch, and when you get it, tag us, tweet at us. We want to see where you're rocking your merch from. We'll retweet it, we'll repost it. phiapparel.co, code underground, 10% off any and all merch orders. Deej, what the heck is poppin', brother? It is Philly weekend. It's always a double-edged sword when Philly rolls around, because you know it's going to be absolute scenes, but you know it's the end of the season, and it's always a sad time when the end of the PLL season is rolling around.
Dude, I brought this up not last week, obviously, but the week before when I was out Long Island when we were headed to the airport. I was like, dude, like next time I do this is there's a long gap in between coming back, and hoping to make that gap a little bit shorter because I do need to get into Wells Fargo and see a Wings game, maybe see a Sixers game while I'm at it too, something like that. But nonetheless, like this weekend is always so bittersweet because we have such an amazing time at the game and hanging out for our last time of the summer together. But then that plane ride home where I'm absolutely exhausted is probably one of the best because I do go straight to sleep, but it's also like so fulfilling. Like, man, I had a great summer with the homie, doing something we love, watching some amazing lacrosse, and like that was the best way to cap it off. I want to do that again. Summer needs to be here right now.
Bring me my sunshine. It's like the end of a Pokemon season when Ash, Misty, and Brock just go their separate ways at the end, and it's like, when's the new season coming back?
I get to be Ash, right?
What does that make me?
Misty?
Boy, if you don't get your ass.
I'm just saying. We both know here that I'm the personality they come for. So it would make
so that
sense.
would make you Pikachu effectively.
That's fine. I'll be Pikachu.
That's the personality that everybody comes for.
I'll be Pikachu. I'm fine. Pikachu! He's lit, bro. What? I play way too much Smash Bros in my free time.
It is Philadelphia weekend, and it's going to be a doozy. As of this recording, we're recording this portion of the pod for the first time, simply because our schedules are bonkos collectively. No guests going into championship week, but you'll know if that changes by the time the pod comes out. It's just crazy scheduling wise to be able to book it with my broadcast schedule, Deej's broadcast schedule, and work schedule. But don't worry, it's not like we don't want guests on the show. It's just a matter of having the time to do it. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, if you buy your merch, we can make more time to do that and get out of our day jobs. So go do that. But we've got a hell of a championship game on deck on Sunday. Water Dogs, Archers, Part 3. Both games were 1-goal games. We kind of talked about it a little bit on last week's episode, which if you missed that, go check that out as well. It's a great preview and almost kind of like our guests, where we had both Zach Carey and Wyatt Miller on the beat writers for each team, diving into both teams respectively. And I don't know about you, Deej, but it feels like we could be poised for arguably like best championship game since 2019 in terms of just like energy, the vibe of both teams, where 2019 we also got overtime, and like it's not that 2020's championship game was bad, 2021 was not bad either, because that had a storyline to itself, and last year was great too, but just the talent and the way that both of these two teams have played, it truly does feel like we have the two best teams in the PLL duking it out for a championship.
This might be one of the best championship games we've seen in all of lacrosse, all of professional lacrosse, because we've seen some phenomenal ones at the college level, phenomenal ones at the world level. but this might be one of the best championship games we've seen at the pro level. It's going to be insane. The we're putting the two most efficient offenses against arguably the two best defenses and goalies in the league this year, with two very opposite middle of the field strategies that have worked. It's so weird how the Archers only push off of the face-off. They don't push transition a ton. It's really kind of only off the face-off. If they get something in their clear, they'll take the shot if they have the odd number, but they don't push the fast break. They only do it quickly off the face-off because they have to with the 32-second shot clock. They prefer to just manage the middle of the field, take their time, get their personnel on for both sides so that they can play the game they want to play in the half field. Whereas, which goes into having Sisselberger at the X and the way that they handle the X there. And then you look at the opposite side, conceding the face-off more times than not, going super fast in the fast break, whether they win the face-off or not, always looking to push in the clear. They're so drastically different in the middle of the field. In the middle of the field is where you win the game. I'll tell you that 10 times over. Middle of the field is where you win the game. That's where the most ground balls happen. That's where the most hustle is required. Other than that, the goalies are going to help, obviously, special teams. But to have such drastic differences in the way that they approach the middle of the field only means blockbuster. Only means blockbuster, because one of these teams is going to end up controlling the pace of the game. So the other is going to have to play that style of the middle of the field that other team wants to play. And that's where some things are going to get interesting. And I have a feeling that we're weirdly going to get one of those games where it's both. Where off the face-off, it's going to be fast for the Archers. The Archers are going to go quick. Water Dogs will take it quickly, if not, but they also are comfortable with only taking off the LSM and putting on one midfielder and running with the two that they have out. So they'll also kind of take that part slow. But the fast break is going to be fast if the Water Dogs want it to be. So we may have a weird position where it's back and forth, where both teams are kind of going to be able to control the tempo of the game. And at certain points, it's going to be slow in the middle of the field. And at other points, it's going to be extremely fast.
And if I'm remembering correctly, which I know the Dallas matchup of this that the Archers ended up winning, 1918, it was different. But I want to pull up who led the Water Dogs in face-offs in Salt Lake City, because obviously with the playoffs, things have certainly changed. Yeah, so that game that the Water Dogs won the final week of the regular season, that was when it felt like Cope was like, all right, let's test some things out at the stripe. And that's when Zach Currier started getting a little bit more burn. That wasn't the case in Dallas. And since that game, we've seen Zach Currier be this kind of like unicorn X factor for the Water Dogs, that like if he's out there and starts winning a couple of faceoffs in a row, like it changes momentum for the Water Dogs and it lets them set up their offense quicker, like you said. I'm intrigued to see how that matchup goes between Currier and Sisselberger at this particular matchup, like at this point in the season, because it is something that Sis wasn't like fully prepared for in Dallas, obviously, because it didn't happen. And then Eli was still at the stripe, took a majority of the faceoffs in Salt Lake City. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on, in my opinion, because it is a different dynamic. Because Currier can win faceoffs, he can score off of faceoffs, and he can set this Water Dogs offense up for success.
You know, the other scary thing about that, though, is Currier's so diverse as a player that they could choose to not put him on a single face-off, but put him on the wing and lock off everywhere and just let Go Brick have at it with Sis and make it a one-on-one. So like there's so many things you can do with Curry. Like there's no disguising it when it comes to it if you're outside of the attack lineup for the Water Dogs, the most key person in this game is Zach Currier. Not because you don't know what you're going to get out of him, not because you know exactly what you're going to get out of Dylan Ward, but because when Currier is on, this team is unreal. I.e., 2 weeks ago, when we're in Long Island, that team could not be stopped. It didn't matter what lacrosse team you put out there against those Water Dogs. Them playing like that was not going to be stopped because the way Currier was playing. 12 for 17 from the stripe, 4 points. You're never going to beat a Water Dogs team when you have Currier playing at that moment or at that stature. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing is what Zach Currier is going to show up. Are you going to get, or I shouldn't say what Zach Currier is going to show up, what Zach Currier is going to be allowed to be present by the Archers defense. If they're going to let him get a couple points and he gets a couple early, strap it up big time if you're an Archers fan, because the bows might be going down. It's going to be a tough game if this guy gets going early, but also they got to pay attention to how much he gets moved around and all the different things that Cope might decide to do with him, because he is that dynamic of a player and they do need him to be on. So they may not keep him in one position that isn't necessarily working.
And I think the other X factor is obviously the injury report finally came out, and Connor Fields is doubtful for the championship game. Shoulder separation. I know that feeling, not to the fullest extent, but somebody who's had shoulder issues in the past, I feel for Connor Fields big time. And there's proof to everybody who thought it was a hit to the head. It was clearly his shoulder. Which we saw from the press box, because he did reach out, and I've been there before too, reaching out to make sure it's not dislocated, and that's a huge loss for the Archers. Doubtful, sure. Does it leave the door open? Yes, but I think we'd all be kind of surprised if Connor Fields is out there, especially seeing the way that he reacted to that hit, and a shoulder separation when you're a shooter of his caliber is not the easiest thing to bounce back from in such a short allotted amount of time. So I'm fully expecting Fieldsy to not be available, even though the doubtful tag is still there and leaves a little window open. But if you're an Archers fan, you got to anticipate Connor Fields is not playing. That's 39 points of production off the board for the Archers. So now you're going to have other people step up, and not that they don't have the ability to have those guys step up, but it does suck that, going into, the playoffs, you lose Latrell Harris. Now you lose Connor Fields, like two very big-time contributors for this team this season. Fieldsy led the team in points, led the team in 1-point goals, led the team in shots. He was such a huge factor for this Archers offense, and now you remove that, and he's a guy that was in both of the games previously when these two teams played. So now the Water Dogs can kind of use their defense on other pieces and hyper-focus on other guys and not have to worry about a Connor Fields being on the field.
I wish I could say that was true. This Archers team is so loaded.
For sure.
We know for sure that they're going to move Grant Ament back down there, which I absolutely love, because you're putting him back with his college line mate and Mac O'Keefe. I don't bet, but whatever the prop lines are for those two for points, I'd probably be hitting the over. Them playing together on the same line is dynamic. And they're playing, back in Philly. I know that Penn State isn't necessarily in Philly, but it's close enough.
Philly adjacent.
It's close enough, and they weren't able to get the job done in the blue and white. They were not able to get the job done.
Do you want the point totals for both of them?
I do.
So the number is the same, just the odds are different. They're both, the line is 3.5. Grant Ament over 3.5 plus 150, minus 200 for under 3.5. And then Mac is minus 145 for over 3.5 and under plus 105. I did see a good stat. If you are somebody who bets, not that we're a full send, gambling podcast, but we look at these because it helps us make our picks and stuff like that. And I want to pull this up because it is a fascinating statistic on Mac O'Keefe. So Brandon Biaggi, he does a lot of stuff for Bet on Lacrosse, Pro Lacrosse Talk. Shout out to the boys. He's betting the under 3.5 for Mac O'Keefe at plus 105. It's plus money to not score 4 in a championship game at almost a pick'em line. He's only hit this in 5 out of 12 games this season. And for comparison, those lines are on DraftKings, not a sponsor. FanDuel, not a sponsor, has it at minus 150, which is more appropriate, fair value, plus, just shopping lines and everything. It is a good stat to pay attention to. Less than 50% of the time, Mac O'Keefe scoring 4 points in a game. And a championship game as well. Granted, he has the experience in a championship game, but the pressure of a championship game plays into it. And we know in any sport that even if you've been there before, it is such a different feel, and players can perform differently than what you've seen them at.
I think he goes in a little more loose, and I think he has more opportunity to hit that 3 and that 4, because those other 12 games, or those other 10 games, 12 games, those other 12 games, he's had Connor Fields on the field, which any way you want to cut it.
Well, it should actually be 5 out of 11 because they had the bye week.
Yeah. Either way you want to cut it, Fields is going to take some of that production. Whether it's 1 point, because, I mean, how many of those 6 games where he didn't hit did he have 3 points? You know what I'm saying? Probably a good handful of those. Because it's like, for every one that Connor Fields takes, it's probably one away from Mac. And there's no guarantee that Mac didn't assist on some of Connor Fields as well. So I like
Mac had over 3.5 points week 2 against Chrome, week 4 against the Whip Snakes, week 5 against the Redwoods. All of those were 4 points. And then did it again against Chrome in August and against Whip Snakes in August as well. The 2 games against the Water Dogs, in Dallas he had 3, and in Salt Lake he had 2.
So 1 game for sure with 3. I can't imagine. Well, there's a couple others he had 3 points in.
Week 1 against the Cannons, and in Baltimore against Atlas.
So what's that? 2 games out of the year that he had less than 3 points?
Yes. Week 3 against Chaos in Ohio, and then Salt Lake he had 2.
And he had 2 in both of those, right? Or did he just have 1?
In both of the less than 3.
I don't see how you take Connor Fields away from this guy and say he isn't going to hit 4 points. Championship game or not. If anybody's going to make up on the shooting side of things, it's him. And Trey LeClaire, most likely. Trey LeClaire's got a laser of a shot. And if they put him down at attack, that's going to make it tough for the defense as well. So I would love to say that they have it somewhat easier, because taking a guy like Connor Fields off the field is arguably going to make things easier because he's such a dynamic player. But the guys they have fill in that spot, and the way it's a literal carousel with the offense is crazy. It's a literal next guy up mentality. And sure, they're not Connor Fields, but they're pretty close.
Do you think this game hits the over?
What's the over?
The over for this weekend is 25.5 is the line. So 26 would be over. Where the last 3 times these teams have played, obviously Salt Lake, 27 was the total combined. We had the 37 in Dallas. And then August 20th, week 11 of 2022, these teams combined for 28 points. So every single time it's hit the over of what this weekend's over line is the last 3 matchups.
The last 3? I thought there was one earlier this year where it was only like...
The last 3 matchups were 14-13 Dogs in Salt Lake, which is 27. Yeah. 19-18 Archers in July in Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
and then 16-12 Archers in Week 11 of 2022.
Probably, honestly.
Which would be nuts because typically, like, the championship games don't go over. Because in 2019, what was that final score? 12-11 in overtime, so it's 23 total points. 2020 was 12-6, so it's 18. 2021 was 14-9, so 23. And then last year was 11-9 Water Dogs. So every single championship has been under what this weekend's over-under line is.
I know.
Which is
That's the
fascinating.
weird. Yeah, it's so weird because like these two teams are so dynamic offensively that you like expect it to hit, but then you talked about, you know, the feeling and pressures of a championship game and kind of what that does to you. So like it could very well be under.
I think the other interesting matchup in this is the goalies because Dylan Ward has that championship experience, has won championships, yes, plural, over the last couple of years, both indoor and outdoor. And Brett Dobson's competing for his first professional championship. I'm curious to see how Dauber performs. Not that I'm like doubting that he'll have a great game, but I am intrigued to see the, like you mentioned with Mac, like the calmness that he could have, knowing the experience he's had because he's played in the championship every year he's been in the league in the PLL. I'm wondering how Dauber's going to react as a first-time championship experience for him versus Dylan Ward, who's been there, has won at this stadium. It's going to be interesting to watch the goalie dynamic.
Weirdly, I feel like both him and Sis are going to be like might be the best parts of the day for the Archers. It's kind of they kind of know that like they were the missing pieces kind of at this point. Like it's been brought up to them by, you know, us and other members of the media. It's been mentioned on socials and such that like the Archers' final steps were finding their next goalie that wasn't Adam Gittleman and getting in a, I don't want to say competent, but getting a face-off guy that was going to help them progress in the way that they were moving forward. They seem to have done those two things with these moves. So they kind of get the idea that they need to be on that kind of A game. And sometimes knowing exactly what you need and hearing those kind of things makes you step up to the plate. And like if there were two young guys in the league that were going to step up to that kind of plate after hearing certain things, those two would be at the top of the list for me for sure. So that's kind of why I think the two of them would be okay is they understand how much they mean to the team, not only just their position wise, but just team history in the league and how close they've been, but kind of just didn't have those two parts. So I'm interested to see if they're like you. Yeah, I'm pretty much interested to see how they react, but like I feel like it'll be a good reaction from both because I would be seriously stunned if they kind of came out bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
Yeah, and I mean for the Archers too, like outside of Mac O'Keefe and Challen Rogers, who, you know, have been on this stage, there's a lot of these guys playing in a pro field lacrosse championship game for the very first time in their careers. Tom Schreiber has obviously done it in the MLL as well, but a lot of these guys getting their first crack at it, where outside of Jake Caraway and the rookies, this entire Water Dogs team was at this exact stage last year, including the coaching staff. And I think that's a huge contributing factor in this matchup, is just the experience as a collective. Sure, you can have individual championship experience, and it can take you a long way. I mean, most recently in my personal experience, look at the Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series last year. They've brought in a bunch of guys who, through free agency, built the team, brought in guys, that got called up naturally. They go on this magical run last year and come 2 wins away from winning a World Series against a team in the Houston Astros who, say what you want about them, sure, they cheated, yes. But there's guys on that team who have been together for years upon years, have been on the World Series stage multiple times together, and knew how to get the job done and collectively play as a team and win on a championship stage. I think that is a huge factor in terms of just preparation and knowing what to expect from a championship game, where the Archers are kind of coming in cold as a collective unit in a championship stage.
I mean, like I said, some people kind of like step up to that plate and others don't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the biggest thing, is can the Archers kind of come in as that never been here before a team that people are counting out and just make it happen, or will the Water Dogs simply just be too much?
Yeah. I think the other part of this, and we talked about this with Wyatt, is just watching how the big three from the Water Dogs execute in their calling time. Is it going to be first quarter Michael Sowers, second portion of the game Ethan Walker, and then fourth quarter Kieran? Or will it be collectively spread around? And then how does that Archers defense, which has been stellar all year between Graham, Warren Jeffrey, and Matt McMahon, step up to kind of defend those guys, along with whoever Andy Copeland decides to, throw at them out of the box, from Jack Hanna to Jake Caraway, McConvey in the mix. It's going to be an interesting tactic. And, Andy Towers talked about this last year and in 2021, where he chose to play veterans in the championship game. Worked, obviously, in 2021. Last year, not so much, but they still played well. I'm curious if that plays a factor for Cope in determining whether or not Jake Caraway plays or Thomas McConvey plays.
I think it's just going to be a feeling thing. Like, Cope's going to be like, this lineup feels right, so this is what I'm going to go with. Like,
or he pulls Ryan Brown out of retirement.
Yeah, you let me know how that go. But yeah, I don't think there's really, and I almost want to lean toward McConvey just because of how good of a season Walker's had, and he's probably going to start attack. So, like, can Caraway come out of the mid? Yeah, but he's just like not as effective out of the mid. So I'd probably lean toward McConvey.
In your opinion, what do the Archers have to do to win on Sunday? What's like the big thing that stands out to you?
Score early. Score early and often. Like, they can't let any opportunity go early. Like, classic Dylan Ward's classic goalie. Like, the earlier you get to him, the better. Once you let him warm up, you're toast. If you let him get any kind of saves and he starts seeing the ball, there's going to be shots that you feel in your bones are going to be a goal, and he's like, no, because he's just too locked in. So they have to get to him early and often, and then you got to do something with Sowers. Same thing, like you got to let him know it's going to be a rough day early. Hard checks as soon as he's catching the ball, another check, a second after he lets it go. Put him on the ground every time he comes inside the crease. Like, you got to make his day long, or he'll make yours long. And then, of course, Courier. Like, obviously you can't stop him, but slow him down. Slow him down. Make it rough for him to go both ways. Make it rough for him at the stripe. Make sure when he gets shots off that there's some pressure there. Those two guys have to have a rough day on the offensive end if the Archers want to get it done, and they got to score early and got to score often.
Yeah, I think the big things for me with the Archers is, like you mentioned, seeing how Dobson and Sis perform on this championship stage and have their nerves in check, because there's going to be nerves there. That's just normal human behavior. It's going to be, I think, very determinant on Mac O'Keefe stepping up even more than what we've seen him do this entire season. Like, he had a career year, but without Fieldsy, he's going to be a guy who's going to get his number called a ton to just create opportunities and let that shot rip, and just letting him kind of flow out there and be a leader on the offense along with Tom Schreiber. That's going to be, I think, pivotal for the Archers. And then I think the other part is the young boys on that short stick D-midi unit. Those guys are just as pivotal as Sis and Dobson, if not more, with how well they've played this year and how they've stepped up as rookies with no Treasy. It's going to be fascinating to watch that rope unit. And, I assume they're going to kind of run it back with Chalent Rogers filling in for Treasy there. But to see those two young bulls playing in a championship level environment is going to be something pivotal to watch, and how they perform, I think, will help, determine the result for the Archers if they want to win. What are your keys for the Dogs to repeat as champions?
Contain Grant and Matt. He's going to be back in Philly. Going to have a big section, slow his day down, make it tough for him to create for everybody. He's best when he can get some passes off and get his teammates rolling. Do something with Sis at the stripe. Don't let him win him forward. Like, he's going to win. He's got to go backward, and he's got to clear and give it up to somebody else. Because he's shown that he can score, so you can't really lock off and let him go 1v1 the entire time either. And then the last thing is transition. Force the Archers to play fast in the middle of the field. Force them to leave some offensive middies on and really take advantage of those number situations.
Yeah. I think for me with the Water Dogs, it's truly going to be the collective, unit calmness of, we've been here before, we know what it takes to get it done, let's do it again and perform the way we know we can, and just the attitude that they approach this game with. Zach Currier is going to be a huge factor, whether it's at the stripe or just him being the unicorn that he is. He's going to have to step up and be big time against Sis, who, Rookie of the Year candidate, face-off Athlete of the Year candidate. He's going to win his. Courier's got to step up and be a disruptant and cause some havoc at the stripe to make it a not-so-fun afternoon for Sis if the Dogs want to win. And then I do think it's going to come down to the way that the Water Dogs ball movement occurs around this defense. They're a big body defense, but not in a way that Chaos are, or, the Whip Snakes were back, in 2019, 2020. The Archers are big, but they're muscular, strong defensively across the board. So I think ball movement, when you're in that zone and creating opportunities, creating space for your shooters between Kieran, Michael Sowers, Jack Hanna, Ethan Walker, creating that space for them to get their hands free around that defense is going to be pivotal. And then 3A is trying your best to clamp Tom Schreiber. You can't let Tom get any space with his hands, otherwise he's going to make you pay. So that matchup of who they decide to deploy on Tom Schreiber on Sunday is going to be fascinating to watch, to see how they adjust to it and how they learn from the previous two matchups. But all in all, I think this game is going to be one for the books. It's going to be an all-time game as of now. Last one before we get to our picks. Is it another one-goal game?
Two goals.
I think we get a one-score game. I think these two teams are very evenly matched in a lot of areas, and it's just going to lead to a lot of back and forth, very fun action. And I think it's going to be tough for either team to kind of go on a extended run like we've seen them do against other opponents. So I think it's another one-score game. So, Deej, I think without any further ado, for one final time this PLL season, let's head on over to the pick pond and feed some ducks, as it is the PLL Philadelphia Championship pick of the week, powered by Trophy Smack. Your fantasy football leagues are underway. Fantasy baseball championships are coming up or have already occurred. And your PLL brackets have a chance to crown a winner potentially this weekend. What better way to celebrate and to commemorate than with our pals over at Trophy Smack? They've got trophies, belts, rings, turnover chains, metal wall art. They're the best in the game. Upgrade your fantasy smack talk with our pals at Trophy Smack. Go to trophysmack.com/underground and upgrade your fantasy smack talk today. That's trophysmack.com/underground to upgrade your fantasy smack talk. Deej, for one final time this PLL season, it's Archers, it's Water Dogs, the 1 versus the 3, the first timers versus the defending champs, the ultimate Philly championship, and hopefully the ultimate jersey matchup, as we brought up last episode with Zach and Wyatt. How do you see Dogs, Archers, Volume 3, the Philly Bowl, going down? Who's hoisting that beautiful, beautiful trophy when the clock hits 0 on Sunday?
It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. The Water Dogs are fantastic. They have everything that's needed to beat a team 3 times in a year.
Well, they wouldn't be beating a team 3 times because the Archers won the first matchup.
Shh. You're ruining the whole bit.
Could say it's hard to beat a team 2 times in a year, as evidenced by these two teams.
Man, bro. I just want my bracket to be 100% correct. I'm going with the Archers, man.
He's going with the first-time champions. And I think we can both say this. I speak for Deej here. We'd be very happy with either team winning the championship. We've got homies on both teams that we'd want to see win, either running it back or winning for the very first time in the PLL. Big-time OTB vibes in this championship game, from Grant Ament to Tom Schreiber to Treasy to Connor Fields, Chris Bates, Ryan Ambler, Matt McMahon, Graham Hosick for the Archers. And then the Dogs, obviously, you guys know Coach Copeland is our guy. Kieran, we have banged the drum for Kieran since day one. Michael Sowers is the homie. Liam Burns, Eli Gobrecht, Dylan Ward. The list goes on and on. It's a big OTB bowl this Sunday. I'm simply going on gut feeling with this one. And as much as I'd love for my bracket to be correct, something just tells me Water Dogs are winning. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. Because I felt confident going into the playoffs that the Archers were going to win the championship. But after seeing the Dogs play the way they did in Boston, after seeing the Dogs play the way they did on Long Island, when you're hot, you're hot. And the Dogs have been hot all year long. We said it with Wyatt. They've been the quietest 7-3 regular season team in PLL history. I got to roll with the Dogs in a very close one. But like I said, I'd be thrilled if the Archers win, because that's great for the league. To get a first-time Original Six team to win, to take down the defending champions. where these two teams will also see each other again in February at the championship series. And if the Water Dogs win, it's a repeat champion for the first time since 2019-2020. And it sandwiches chaos with that absolutely chaotic 2.8%, 3.2% season in 2021 between back-to-back champions. It's going to be an electric environment. I'm stoked that we're going to be there. If you're going to be in Philly, hit us up. We want to see you guys if you're going to be in my city, in DJ's adopted city. So there it is. We're just splitting ends to cover our bases. I'm going to go with the Dogs. DJ is going to go with the Archers, and we'll be happy either way. And there is our PLL Philadelphia Championship Pick of the Week, powered by Trophy Smack, the Philly Bowl, for the crown in Philadelphia in 2023. Deej, we got a Squires Sixes for the people. It's been a while since we've done one of these. It's brought to you by our pals over at Kenwood Beer, the official beer partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. And if you're in the city, you can get yourself a Kenwood Beer this weekend because it is in Philadelphia. It's made in Philadelphia. You can use the Kenny Finder at kenwoodbeer.com to see who's got it on tap in the Philadelphia area, in the Pittsburgh area, and soon to be Maryland area. You got to be 21 or older to do so, and of course, please drink responsibly. I know Deej is going to have some Kennies when he gets here, and enjoy responsibly, of course. But Deej, tell the people, Kenwood Beer is the best beer on the planet.
It's the only beer I drink. I don't drink beer, but I will, in fact, indulge in Kenny.
So there it is. Our boy Stephen McAvoy had his very first one on the Getting the Whole podcast when we delivered the goods for him, and said that it is absolutely unbelievable. So go to kenwoodbeer.com. Shout out to the Kenny boys. But we got a Squires Sixes, and it is pretty simple. It's Philly. Squires Sixes, Philly edition, powered by Kenwood Beer. Deej and I are going to give our 6 things that scream Philly to us, which is going to be very fun to see how DJ's brain works versus mine. So, Deej, I'll do the honors and give you the first pick to divulge into. What is Philly?
So, as an adopted outsider, the number one thing you have to do when you go is hoagie, cheesesteak, etc. You put me on Ishkabibbles, Del Sandros, was able to try those my very first year out. Loved them. And then you got me on Tony Luke. I can taste the bacon, egg, and cheese that I get every time I go. I can taste it right now. So good. So hoagie / cheesesteak is number one. There are obviously a number of spots to go to, so I won't be throwing out any, but my personal favorites are Ishkabibbles, Tony Luke, and Del Sandros.
When they're back, I got to get you to Jim's. We both have to hit Angelo's. It's just difficult to hit it because they don't have a phone. You have to go in person. You can't call ahead. It's crazy. It's very old school. And there's a line. It's bonkos. Arguably best pizza and best cheesesteak in the city. So yeah, cheesesteak and hoagies, definite staple. My number one pick is going to go to terminology, to verbiage, to slang. It's John.
I don't know if that originated there, but I'll let you have it.
John is Philly through and through. It's a verb, it's a noun, it's an adjective, it's an adverb. It's all of it. What is a John? It's anything. You could say, hit that John. I'm going to the John. You make a left turn, right turn, loop around the John. It's a Philly thing. So I'm going to go with John for my number one pick. And then my wraparound pick is going to be more verbiage, Deej. Let's go Birds. That is the ultimate it's broken through the seasonal barrier of verbiage. Anytime you hear Go Birds is like the 1A to John, where Go Birds can mean hello, thank you, goodbye, go fuck yourself, all of the above. Hold the door open at Wawa, Go Birds. Go Birds is my number 2 pick.
My number 2 was the place I stayed. The only time I've stayed here, because I haven't stayed in the hotel since I've been back the first time. The Bellevue. The Bellevue was...
It's a personal pick.
It was an interesting stay. It was an interesting stay. But the experience was awesome. You could tell it was an historical place, and a lot of the original things were still there, set up right downtown. I mean, the town hall was literally, I could walk out the front door and like do one of these, and I was like staring at at City Hall. So like that was also awesome to see. And just the only bad thing about it was I felt like somebody was in my room with me the entire time. And I was in a room by myself, but I felt like there was someone else with me the entire time.
So your wraparound pick now after the Bellevue.
Oh, I'll have to say the sports complex. Kind of just everything, including Subaru, even though it's not like really right there. That setup is awesome. Being able to actually like walk around and have all those tailgates set up and everything, just the setup, everything down there. I've been in Lincoln Financial. I've been in CBP. Wow. Don't say that fast because it will not happen. And just the atmosphere inside of those places is awesome. Like, ours are a little too spread out here in Detroit to make that kind of thing happen. And they don't also have just giant parking lots outside of them either. But I love that concept of Philly.
Good pick. I love the sports complex. It is very, very fun, no matter the time of year. My next pick, I'm going to go cultural. I'm going to go historical. What's more Philly than the Liberty Bell? It's the birthplace of America. It is a fixture, both historically, sportically, with the Phillies, obviously. And I think when you look at just like historical pieces of art or like historical, things in like our country's history, the Liberty Bell is one of the cooler ones. And I was doing a little research too, because you learn things about the Liberty Bell in school, but you're too young to really process everything. Did you know, Deej, that the Liberty Bell was a symbol for the freedom of slaves, and they used the Liberty Bell as kind of like a symbol to like push them forward to free themselves from slavery?
No, I didn't know that.
I had no clue, but that's like something that you feel like you should learn in school, but it's never taught to you. And I was like, that's fascinating.
I wouldn't need a real job if I got paid every time I said that.
Yes.
There's so many things I'm supposed to learn in school that I just don't.
I want to pull it up because I wrote it down because I was like, this is like something that should be taught all the time. And the fact that at age 29, almost 30, I'm learning about this for the first time is wild. I want to pull it up here so I don't misquote it. Yeah, so after American independence was secured, the bell fell into relative obscurity until in the 1830s, the bell was adopted as a symbol by abolitionist societies who dubbed it the Liberty Bell. And then right here, I have it. Anti-slavery groups who adopted it as a symbol of their cause coined its name, the Liberty Bell, in the early 19th century. And after the Civil War, the bell traveled across the country in an effort to reunite the nation. And since then, many groups have used it as a symbol of their struggles for liberty and equality. That feels like the absolute backstory, along with it obviously being part of like the Pennsylvania State Building and ringing when the Declaration of Independence is signed and everything. That feels like a core piece of information that is like an unbelievable piece of information that should be attributed to the Liberty Bell. So there you go. There's everybody's history lesson with KB this week.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything else because I'm not going to get us canceled.
My next pick is going to be, I'm going to go Reading Terminal Market. That's another place I got to bring you. It is like the largest fucking farmers market, flea market, like where you can get groceries, unbelievable food. Like, you can shop there. It is like huge, like one of the biggest in the country, and it is just like the spot to go if you're like trying to get like unique and like good hearty food in Philly outside of, you know, your typical cheesesteak, but they do have great cheesesteak spots in there. Reading Terminal Market is sick as hell, and it's very Philly because you're not going to get that anywhere else.
My next pick is a two-parter. Meek Mill and Lil Uzi. Not only do they produce nothing but bangers, but they're also like the two opposite sides of Philadelphia. Like, you have people who listen to Meek Mill. They're just very certain kind of people. But then the other half of Philadelphia listens to Lil Uzi. And then when you mix those two together, it's exactly what happens when you mix those two crowds together. And it's fantastic.
It's a parade inside our city. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to pot it.
Good pick. Good pick. I feel like also, this is not just because I'm from the area. I feel like the Philadelphia just like hip hop rap scene is always so underrated. Like across the board. Not even just with Meek and Lil Uzi Vert, but like there's so many good artists that come out of Philadelphia that don't get the recognition I think that they should deserve. So yeah, great pick. Your wraparound.
Wraparound pick.
Don't steal my pick. Don't steal my pick.
So disrespectful. I was trying to do a moment of silence for a second.
Oh.
It's okay. It's okay. It's over now. R.I.P. to the man, Kobe Bean Bryant. Obviously had to go on the list. Me being
Lower Marion.
I'm such a basketball guy, and the crossover between basketball and lacrosse, and he's one of those guys that like I couldn't imagine him on a lacrosse field. Like that would be electric. But everything he means to the world, and then obviously to Philly, going to Lower Marion and everything. Like, I can't talk about Philly without putting Kobe on the list.
You didn't steal my pick. My next pick is also kind of a two-parter. It's the Art Museum steps and the Rocky statue. Very iconic. Obviously made even more iconic by 1976's Rocky. It is the ultimate tourist thing to do, is go run up the Art Museum steps, or as everybody calls them, the Rocky steps. Plus, once you do that, go in the Art Museum. It's fucking awesome in there. Unbelievable pieces of art that you won't see anywhere else. And the Rocky statue, the fact that the city of Philadelphia, I feel like, is the only city that could champion a fictional character the way that we do with Rocky Balboa is quite hilarious. Sylvester Stallone basically being Philly adopted because of Rocky is great. And I feel like Philadelphia is the only city that could ever flawlessly pull that off. And also to anybody coming in from out of state, don't put your favorite teams jersey on the Rocky statue unless you want to see them lose. But if they're playing the Birds, if they're playing the Phils, please go do it. Like, I encourage that. But I'm saying for all our PLL fans that may be coming in this weekend, don't put an Archers or Dogs jersey on the statue because it's not good. It's not good for your squad. So I'm going to go Art Museum steps / the Rocky statue because it is right outside the Art Museum steps. Deej, your final pick.
Wow. This is an experience one, mostly for people who are coming into. But, I mean, if you live there or you're heading out, it's a good experience for you as well. The Philadelphia International Airport. That is just Philly at its finest. Like, every airport has its own little dealings. Like DTW here in Detroit, like luggage is the only real problem you have going on there. Everything else is very, very simple. Chicago, like actually one of the smoothest airports I've ever been in, but they're both like way out of the way and deal with a bunch of traffic. And 9 times out of 10, somebody's running from the cops at the airport. Makes no sense. But you go to Philly and all hell breaks loose at the airport. It's just, it is a fucking shit show every time we're there. I don't.
Only recently, for me.
Bruh, it is always a shit show when we go there. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm bringing the shit show when I get
Maybe
there.
it's Maybelline.
Like,
No free ads.
But like, it's such a fun experience at the same time. Like, there's great food in there. The people watching is at an all-time high. And then you get to get outside and see people like running after trams and running after shuttle buses, seeing people yell on the phone because they're like, I don't see you. Where are you?
Yo, where the fuck you at, bro?
I wish I could do the accent well enough. But like, dude, it is fantastic.
Bro, I'm outside. I got the blinkers on. Like, fucking pull up. Bring the suitcase out. Let's fucking get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And then you got cops like, tweet, tweet. Go, get out of here. Loop around. You heard me. Loop around. I don't care. Loop around.
That's hilarious.
Oh, man.
That's a hilarious one that is very catered to your personal experience with Philadelphia, which is why I said I'm intrigued by your list. My final pick is going to go to a place that is easily, outside of sports, my favorite place to go in Philadelphia. It is a hidden gem. It is one of the coolest, most unique places on earth, and that is Graffiti Pier. It's an old, abandoned, shipping pier that has since been turned into a living art canvas that is graffitied all over the place. It is such a cool spot to go to. I have a photo that I took blown up from Graffiti Pier in the studio that I have to hang somewhere. I'm working on us getting company photos taken there of everybody professionally done, which would be absolutely amazing. Graffiti Pier is just one of the coolest spots, and if you're a big art fan, if you appreciate the art of graffiti, if you're a tattoo fan, Graffiti Pier is one of the coolest places to visit. And little Easter egg, I don't think I've ever mentioned this, little Easter egg, a photo I took at Graffiti Pier is on the Underground Sports Philadelphia hoodie at PHI Apparel Company, our Hype Beast hoodie. The bar that is on the Underground is a photo from Graffiti Pier that I took. I love Graffiti Pier. Like, it's so hidden too, and like you're only allowed to go there legally when the sun is up. And it's just such a cool spot to walk around and just take in all of the unique artwork that gets put on display, from walls to trees to the ground. It's so cool. So Graffiti Pier is my final pick. Did you have any honorable mentions?
The Kawhi Leonard shot.
Come on, dog.
I'm sorry, bro. It happened.
That wasn't even in Philly.
My bad then.
That was in Toronto.
My bad.
They had magnetic rims.
I take that back then. I take that back.
That was a low blow.
I take that
Blow.
back. No, I really only said that because I thought it happened in Philly, and I was like,
No.
I mean, that is an iconic moment in basketball. Like,
No, I don't know what
it
you're talking
happened
about.
there.
That did not happen at all.
I think AI crossed Jordan in a home game. I think that was a home game. Because that's definitely on the list. Oh! I know it ain't originate there, but that's where I ran into it for the first time. Wawa. On the list. On the list. I don't care where it originated. I don't care where it's at, in your city, in your state, none of that. Wawa's on the list.
Wawa was founded in Folsom, Pennsylvania, which is
close enough.
Close enough.
I wouldn't even care if it was 4 hours away. That's close enough.
Folsom's in good old Delco, bro.
Ah. Interesting. I don't know if I want to be that tied to Delco.
Good honorable mention there. I have a couple. The Franklin Institute, one of the coolest museums out there. They bring all of the coolest, like, out, like, not typically there, but like event type of things. Like, they had the Harry Potter exhibit is the word I'm looking for. They had the Harry Potter exhibit. They had the Marvel exhibit a few years ago. They have the Disney 100-year celebration one that either just happened or is happening. They had the King Tut exhibit when I was younger at the Franklin Institute. And, like, there's so much cool stuff that you can learn about, like, space and technology at the Franklin Institute. It's such a cool place, such a fun, like, day trip that you can take when you're in Philly. So the Franklin Institute is definitely one for me. Another one, I love your Wawa pick. Another one for me is going to be... I'm going to go with...
What? Jason and Travis Kelce played lacrosse?
I think I knew that.
I'm just going to go, like, live back under the rock I've been living under. Like, Aiden Hutchinson. Who else played lacrosse that I don't know played lacrosse? This is ridiculous. I just realized I just stopped the whole show.
Well, speaking of Philly, Jason Kelce is Philly. So that's a good observation there. I'm using this not as the mascot. I'm using this as a verb. But the grittiness of Philadelphia, the blue collar, the just like bring your lunch in a lunch pail, put your hard hat on, like kind of just like chip on your shoulder attitude that we have. I love that because it's like, don't piss me off, but if you're on my good side, we're going to love you forever. And you see that with athletes, you see that with just like friendships, and it is such a Philly thing through and through. That just the grittiness of the city of Philadelphia is what seeps through my veins every day of my life. Also, I think Philadelphia has collectively the best mascots in sports. They definitely have number one. The Fanatic is undefeated. Gritty is a menace. Swoop is awesome. Franklin is an absolute chaotic good ? Mascot. And then Fang is Fang, and Winston is amazing, and his head spins 360 degrees.
That's scary. That's scary.
So yeah, there is our Squires Sixes. This is all inspired because I was asked by the fine people over at the PLL this week to cater my my must-see, must-do things in Philadelphia, which is on the PLL Instagram. where I listed Graffiti Pier, the Liberty Bell, the Art Museum and Rocky statue. Love Park is obviously a good one. Go get that Instagram photo with that Love Park statue. Citizens Bank Park. Shout out to the Fightin' Phils. Red October around the corner. Philadelphia Zoo. First zoo in America. Did you know that, Deej?
I did not.
First zoo in America. Franklin Institute. South Street is a must go to. That's where gyms will be when it's rebuilt. But South Street is just like, along with Broad Street, like two iconic places to just go. There's like hundreds upon hundreds of shops, restaurants, bars, things to do. Great concert venue that I'll be at next week, seeing the homies, the Arkells. And then Spruce Street Harbor Park, which we walked by last year, down on Columbus Boulevard with all the hammocks and the neon lights. It's a seasonal spot. It's only open during the summer months, but it's a place that I definitely need to hit, and seems like a good old date night for you and your significant other. So if you need things to do in the Philly area, hit my line. I will let you know the things to do. If you're in town, coming from out of state, out of the city, hit my line. I'd love to hook you up with the things to do in Philadelphia. But Deej, let's shift gears. It's brought to you by Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game. Download the Tomahawk Shades app, and just for downloading the app, you can claim a free pair of sunglasses. Who doesn't love free? When you fill up your cart, go to checkout. You can use promo code USP for 25% off your entire order at tomahawkshades.com. That's 25% off at tomahawkshades.com, code USP. Let's talk some of the latest around the National Lacrosse League. Shout out to the boy Blaze Reardon. Gets a 2-year extension that effectively makes his contract 4 years through 2027. Last week, though, DJ was retirement. We told you guys Blaze was not retiring. If you knew Blaze, you knew he wasn't retiring, you absolute buffoons. Shout out to Big Blazer. He's a franchise cornerstone. I tweeted that. Super stoked for him. He's been such a homie since day one of me covering the Wings, and then obviously going into the PLL, and he's been a mainstay guest on this show. And I'm just stoked that Blaze is going to be in Philly for the long haul, especially with, some of the boys getting traded this offseason. It's nice to know that I'll have some homies that are sticking around, and Blaze has made Philadelphia home, and you want to talk about a guy who embodies Philadelphia, even though he's not technically from here, he is now #from here, and I'm stoked for Blaze to have a long-term spot with the Philadelphia Wings.
I mean, I didn't see him going anywhere else, not because, they had him on lock or anything, but he had a really good year this year. Like, he paced that at a scoring pace that was much better than the years he's been having recently, and he fit into the offense well, and they're really finally kind of putting together the roster that they want to go with for the next couple of years. So to see him sign for 4 years, it should give a little bit of solace to not only him but to fans as well. Like, hey, he's going to be here for a while. We trust this guy. We think he has what it takes, to be on a championship like roster. He's been on championship rosters in the past for lacrosse in several points in his life. So I think it's a great guy to have around, and he loves Philly, and you can see it in the way he acts, the way he talks, the way he plays. And it's a great spot for him, and I'm excited to see if he can progress off the year that he had last year, and pacing, scoring wise, and also just energy wise and fun. Just the smile on his face during games, before and after games is awesome.
Yeah, and this comes from a friend of the program, Adam Levy. I was tracking it late in the season when it was closing in on happening, and then it did happen. Blaze is the all-time leading scorer in New Wings history with 92 goals. He's going to hit 100 this year, which is going to be awesome. He's also one of 3 New Wings players with 200-plus points. It's Blaze, it's Kevin Crowley, and Kyle Matisse, and obviously Big Cat and Kyle are no longer on the Wings roster, so that they kind of get paused with their collective point total increasing, but Blaze is going to be able to continue climbing the charts there for the Wings, and he's a face of the franchise. It's him and Rambo left from the original faces of this franchise back in 2018, now that Trevor's gone, and now that Kyle Matisse is with the New York Riptide. So shout out to Big Blazer. The NLL opening weekend games have started to surface quite a bit. NLL opening weekend, I want to pull these up because we have games on the docket, and the NLL tweeted earlier today, as we record this on Thursday, we are set to announce a major innovation to league competition format, along with the 2023-24 full schedule on Tuesday, September 26th at noon. We got a tweet here, Deej. No, this is not actual information. This is all speculative from John Hoffman, who I believe, if I could be wrong, I believe John either works or founded the Swarm It Up website, which is a very useful tool that we use a ton on this show. He tweeted, it looks like there may be realignment as Georgia hosts Colorado on December 9th. Then on December 22nd, Colorado hosts Georgia. Presumably only teams in the same conference or division would play each other multiple times. Divisions projected. A Canada division of Toronto, Halifax, Saskatchewan, Calgary, and Vancouver. A Northeast division of New York, Albany, Buffalo, Rochester, and Philadelphia. And then a Southwest division of Georgia, Panther City, Colorado, Las Vegas, and San Diego. I think each team will play each other at least once. That would be 14 games. Left over will be 4 games if the schedule is 18. That could then mean that there will be 3 5-team divisions with home and away in division. We also have some of the opening weekend games announced so far for each team. Albany will open up in Las Vegas to take on the Desert Dogs versus Fire Wolves in the ultimate Let's Start a Bonfire dog matchup. Albany will also play in Philadelphia for the Wings home opener, a 1 o'clock start on December 16th. The Bandits will have their ring ceremony and banner raising ceremony on the 16th against San Diego at home. We don't have any games announced for Calgary just yet. We have the 2 Mammoth Georgia Swarm games for those 2 teams. Saskatchewan and Halifax in Halifax opening things up there. The Desert Dogs, we mentioned, will play Albany, and then they will also play Sunday, December 10th at 4 o'clock at Panther City. Nothing announced yet for the New York Riptide. The Wings will start their season, presumably, unless they're playing opening weekend on December 9th in Toronto. Nothing announced for Rochester. The 1 game for the Seals is Buffalo. 1 game for Saskatchewan is Halifax. 1 game for Toronto is the Wings, and then nothing for Vancouver. So not too much announced just yet, but Deej, how do you feel if there is realignment on the horizon and those projected divisions?
I mean, it doesn't change anything for me except make it easier for me to understand what's going on, who's playing who. And I think I also like it more for a playoff breakdown. Like, however many teams you're going to put in the playoff, it's this many from each team, and then whoever has the best record. Like it just putting it into divisions kind of just solidifies how things will go and just make things easier to follow. And I think that's like the toughest thing about lacrosse for like new fans or like the average person to get into, is to understand everything else that goes into it. Like basketball is simple: win-loss record, and then it goes to head after that. Like, and everybody has that concept. Same thing with football. Like the easier you can make all of the extra concepts of the game, the more likely you are to get people into it. Splitting into 3 divisions will just make the playoff system and format more. Thank you. System and format more streamlined than what it is now.
Yeah, because then it would essentially be top 2 teams, I'd think, from each division. Then you'd get 2 wild cards, which would be the best remaining, which would be pretty cool. I don't like the Wings and Buffalo being in the same division, but that's just me. But it does make sense. Like, yes, Philly and Georgia is definitely a rivalry, but Georgia being in the East never really made sense to me. Yes, they're on the East Coast, but they are a Southern team, and we've always talked about this whenever we speculated that an expansion team could be coming in, where they'd come in, realigning to 4 divisions, and having North, South, East, West or something like that. And we always move Georgia and Panther City in the same division. It's let's put Nashville in and stuff like that. So I think that is a cool move there to put Georgia, Panther City, stuff like that makes it a lot easier. There's always been the rumors, I think, even going back to your first season hosting and even the year before that, of a Canadian division, especially when the Alterna Cup stuff was happening. It's that makes a ton of sense. Makes travel a lot easier for guys, especially if they're playing in Canada. So Canadian division would be very fun and very competitive, and I think there'd be added juice there from the fans. It's we want to be the Kings of Canada. So there you go.
Gotta bring the Alterna Cup back.
Yeah. That was my first thing when I saw this tweet too, was are they going to do an in-season tournament type of thing? Bring the NBA is doing, and certain games or tournament games or whatever it may be, but then the realignment thing would be great. I think it makes sense. I think it makes things easier. It streamlines each division easier, and it makes expansion easier, in my opinion, whenever that time comes again for the NLL to expand. But I think 3 divisions, 5 teams each makes way more sense than having basically conferences and then everything loaded up there. Plus, before, what was it? Panther City, when they came into the league, was when it flipped from divisions to conferences, because we had divisions the first year of the pod. It was the West Division was San Diego, Calgary, Saskatchewan, Vancouver, and Colorado. And then you had the North Division, which was Toronto, Old Rochester, which then became Halifax, Buffalo, and who's the other team up there? I'm blanking. I'm pulling up the thing here. The Old North Division was Buffalo, Toronto, Rochester, and I think Halifax when they came through. I forget what the breakdown was before the new Rochester Nighthawks came in, because then it was the Wings, the Swarm, at the time the Black Wolves, and then the Riptide came in, and then Albany happened, and it shook everything up. Let me actually see what that looked like in 2019, because now I'm we're so far removed from that that I don't even remember what the breakdown was. Okay, so it was still kind of conferences then. In 2019, it was Buffalo, Georgia, Toronto, New England, Rochester, Philly. And then the West was Saskatchewan, San Diego, Calgary, Colorado, Vancouver. And then it was top 4 teams from each made it in, because it was kind of almost evenly split, and it made sense for that to occur. Wonder what it was the year before. I don't remember, because I wasn't covering the NLL then. So, but yeah, I mean, I think this is smart. It makes a lot more sense. Like you said, it streamlines things. It makes it easier to kind of calculate how things will go for the playoffs, and new rivalries can get formed. I talked about that on Guzman's Gridiron, our Vineland High School football coaches show this past week, where Vineland's got like a new era rivalry with a school around here that isn't your traditional rivalry that still exists, but you get these new school rivalries when you start playing new teams, and like, who doesn't love a good rivalry? Like, the fact that we get to see Zed Williams and Lyle Thompson play against each other twice a year, if not 3 times a year now, is going to be super, super fun.
That'd be fire. I'm here for it. Line me up, put me on a stretcher, because I probably won't be breathing at the end.
I'm dead. So are you.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. Well played. Well played. So yeah, the other
on
bit
that note,
the last bit of NLL news, the Saskatchewan Rush did a little logo rebrand. Looks very, very cool. I like both of the ways that the logos look. They're kind of like Scorebug logo is very clean. It's an R with a bison horn, and then the new one, I did laugh at Jerry Raganese's tweet. He said it looked like an IPA logo. But I like it. I think it's clean. It's a new look for them. They're also going to be playing at the Moose Jaw Events Center on Black Friday, which I don't know if that's... Yeah, it's a preseason game.
What a name.
Yeah. Or I'm sorry, it's on the Saturday, so it's on Small Business Saturday, not Black Friday. But I like it. I think it looks super clean. The mascot logo itself, the details in it. That's how you utilize a lacrosse stick in a logo. Very well done. Deej, on a scale of 1 to 10, logo rankings, how do you have the new Rush logo?
It's a solid like 8.5 for me. Like, it's got color, it's got like nice animation, it pops out, it's new, it's different. It's just green. I'm not a big, outside of the Woods, I'm not a big green fan. Like, I guess the Packers. Outside of those two teams, like, I'm not a big green
As
fan.
you sit here wearing a green hat, a green sweatshirt.
This right here is for the boy Liam. I had to support, and there's really not too much green in this. Like, you got to actually be looking at me to know this is green. So yeah, I can pass with this.
I'll allow it. Yeah, I'm giving it like an 8.4. I like it. It's clean. It's new. And I think the only thing that like I wish was a little different was just like the back banner with the way that Rush is displayed on it. Not sure how I feel about it, but I love the Bison logo. I think it's very cool. Very clean new look. Would definitely rock that on a hat or a shirt. Like, that's big time when it comes to drip and new logos and everything. It needs to be wearable. And it certainly is wearable to the fullest extent. So big ups to the Saskatchewan Rush. Love the new logo. Would love to rep it. Would love to rock it. I do wonder what it means for their Bulldog mascot, though.
Probably got to find somewhere else to go. New house to go.
Silence.
No, he probably got a new house he can go live in.
A preemptive moment of silence. All right, everybody, bow your heads. Let's take this moment here to remember a very cool, very swaggy mascot. All right, thank you. So yeah, shout out to the Rush. Let us know in the YouTube comment section how you feel about the new logo. We will see you in Philly at Subaru Park on Sunday. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be one for the books. It's either going to be a first-time champ or a defending champ being crowned PLL champion. Make sure you guys are following us on the socials at OTB Laxpod, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI. Follow Deej on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It goes a long way for helping the show continue to grow, helps more people find Underground Sports Philadelphia as a whole. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. Get us to 600 subscribers before the clock hits 0 in the championship game. We need 51 more of you to come through for the boy. Subscribe. And, of course, get your merch, phiapparel.co, code underground, 10% off any and all merch orders. This has been episode number 293 of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, and, of course, viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. We'll see you in Philly. But until then, we're getting the heck up out of here, and we are signing off. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.